The ground shook when the sky opened over Sector 12 of the Andrelis war zone. Humans had never seen ships shaped like wings of fire. They came down with no warning, turning the desert into a battlefield overnight. No one knew who they were, only that they were not friendly at first sight. Jace Carter had never left Earth before. He was just a tech salvage scout, not a soldier. But war didn't care about titles. He was drafted, trained, and dropped on this alien world called Veltrana, where air burned strange and the sand glowed at night. On the third week of deployment, his unit was wiped out. Jace survived by crawling under a fallen dropship, his body cut and bruised, his rifle cracked in half. He waited there until silence returned. That silence didn't last. A shadow approached, tall and glowing faintly red. Jace gripped the sharp edge of metal beside him, expecting death. But instead, a female voice whispered in a language he didn't understand, gentle and melodic. The figure knelt before him, unarmed. Glowing eyes locked onto his. She looked like something from fantasy, smooth skin with crimson war paint-like patterns, long flame-red hair flowing like liquid, and gold irises like fire trapped in amber. Her armor was alien, sharp yet beautiful, resting over her left shoulder, the right bare. She placed her hand on her chest and spoke again, slower this time. He didn't understand her words, but her tone was soft, almost sad. She lowered her gaze, then reached behind her neck and pulled free a silver chain with a glowing crystal attached. She pressed it to her temple, and then to his forehead. His vision swirled for a second. When he looked up, he could understand her. "I am Sheree of the Emberkin. By your rescue, I am gifted to you," she said with no shame in her voice. "You are my keeper now." "Why have you not touched me yet?" Jace blinked. "Wait, what?" he asked, confused. "I didn't rescue you. I was hiding. You found me." She tilted her head. "In our law, survival together marks bond. You live, I live. Blood fell, but you remained. The right is sealed. I was given by fate. I am yours. Am I wrong to think you accept?" Jace stood up slowly, hands raised. "I'm not trying to own anyone," he said. "I don't need a gift, especially not a person." She stared, hurt flickering in her eyes. "You do not want me?" The question struck him hard. Not because of attraction, though she was breathtaking, but because of how genuinely lost she looked. Like she had trained her whole life for this one moment, only to be turned away. "You don't understand. Where I come from, people aren't given like objects," he said. "We earn trust. Friendship, love. We don't claim it like gear or weapons." Her gaze didn't move. She touched her markings. "We mark with paint, the chosen path. I painted the lines of fate for you. My mother painted her own the day she was given. This is how we show loyalty. I have walked far to find you, human. Why do you walk away?" Jace didn't have an answer. The world spun too fast. He had lost friends, nearly died, and now an alien. Warrior was declaring herself as his gift. And yet, she wasn't acting like a slave. She was proud, standing tall. And yet something in her shimmered like cracked glass. Suddenly, the forest lit up behind them. Dozens of glowing eyes stared from the trees. Other Emberkin taller, heavier armored watched silently. One older male stepped forward. He looked at Jace, then at Sheree. His voice thundered. "She claimed him. Then why does he not accept her?" Sheree turned toward them and bowed slightly. "He is not of our kind. He does not understand bond." The elder walked to Jace and leaned down. "In our culture, she is highborn. Many would kill to receive her. You must choose. Accept the gift, or return her, and break the right. But if you break it, you leave this world alone." Jace looked at the silent warriors. None held weapons, but their presence felt heavier than steel. He looked back at Sheree. She waited, still proud, still hopeful, despite the growing sting in her chest. He didn't want ownership. But she wasn't offering to be owned. She was offering something deeper, something bonded by blood, pain, and strange alien honor. Not romance, not yet, but something that could lead there. If he dared to take the step, Jace exhaled and slowly reached out, touching her hand. Her fingers trembled, but her eyes locked with his, burning with purpose. The warriors behind her let out a low hum. A new fire had been lit in their ancient ways. Sharae stepped closer. Then the bond is whole. We begin our path as one. Come, human. I will show you our truth, and you will show me yours. And, as they walked into the glowing trees, side by side, the war behind them began to shift in ways neither of them yet understood. Jace followed Sharae through the glowing forest, still unsure of what he had agreed to. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable, but it was heavy with questions. The air smelled strange, like warm ash and honey, and the ground pulsed under his boots as if alive. They reached a stone circle lit by fire crystals. The warriors, who had watched him earlier, stood in a wide formation. Each one lowered their weapon and placed a fist over their heart as Sharae entered the ring. She glanced back at Jace and motioned for him to follow. He stepped inside, trying to stay calm. He wasn't a soldier. He didn't know alien customs. But he knew one thing: he didn't want to offend these people, especially not the ones twice his size. A tall woman stepped forward from the group. Her skin was older, her markings darker, almost black like dried blood. She wore a robe instead of armor, and her voice rang with authority. "This is the human? The one you claimed?" Sharae nodded. He touched the flame willingly. "The bond is recognized." The elder narrowed her glowing eyes. "He is not Emberkin. Does he know what this path brings?" Jace raised his hand. "I don't fully understand your laws," he said. "But I didn't come here to take anything. I only want peace. I only want to survive." A murmur moved through the ring. One warrior spat on the ground. Another crossed his arms. The elder nodded slowly and turned to Sharae. "You offer yourself to him, knowing he may never truly accept your heart or your fire?" Sharae stood tall. "Yes, that is my choice." The elder then turned back to Jace. "And you, human, will you take her into your war, into your pain, even if it means her death?" Jace didn't speak for a moment. He looked at Sharae. She didn't flinch. Her eyes burned with loyalty, not fear. Then he nodded. "Yes, if she chooses to walk with me, I will protect her." The elder raised her hands. Fire burst from the crystals, casting light across the circle. "Then let it be written. The bond is sealed, not of chains but of chosen paths. She is now your ember, and you are her keeper. Let none question this." Right again. The warriors around them struck their weapons to the ground once. The sound echoed deep into the woods. Then, without a word, they left the ring, one by one, until only Jace and Sharae remained. He turned to her. "What now?" She smiled softly. "Now I teach you. And you teach me." They walked through the woods again, this time toward a cave lined with strange moss that glowed blue. Inside, the air was warm, and Sharae motioned for him to sit by a small fire pit. She knelt across from him and pulled a curved blade from her belt. Jace flinched. "Whoa, easy," she chuckled lightly. "It's not for blood. It's for marking." She pressed the edge against her palm gently and drew a thin red line. Then she offered the blade to Jace. He hesitated, then copied her, drawing a line across his own palm. Their blood mixed over the fire. The flames rose high, then turned white. Sharae whispered something in her native tongue. Jace didn't ask what it meant. He just watched her and felt something strange rising in his chest. It wasn't fear, it was purpose. She looked at him. "In our bond, you are not above me. I am not below you. We are even. I give you my loyalty, not as a gift, but as a promise." Jace nodded. "Then I promise the same." They leaned back as the fire calmed. Sharae reached out and touched his hand again. Her skin was warm, her touch light. She smiled. "You still have not answered." Jace frowned. "Answered what?" Her voice softened. "I told you I was a gift. You accepted me. But you still haven't touched my soul." He didn't know how to answer. Words seemed too weak for what she meant. So he sat beside her, leaned his shoulder against hers, and said nothing. But she smiled again, knowing that silence spoke louder than anything. In the heart of the alien night, two souls from different stars sat beside the fire, no longer strangers. And somewhere in the sky, war still roared. But for now, peace burned brighter in their bond. The next morning, the sky above Veltrana was colored in crimson light. Strange birds circled high cliffs as Jace and Sheree left the glowing cave. They walked toward a ridge where the valley spread below like a painting torn by war. In the far distance, smoke trails rose where human outposts had fallen. Emberkin banners now flew above the ruins. Sheree paused on the ridge, looking at the scene with unreadable eyes. "This is not our war," she said. Jace nodded. "It wasn't mine either. Until I was forced into it." She turned to him. "Then we share that truth." They descended into the valley where old machines rusted beside shattered alien sculptures. Sheree knelt by a broken drone, touching its bent frame with careful hands. "Your people make things from metal and fire," she said, "but sometimes they forget how to feel them." Jace crouched beside her. "We use machines to protect ourselves, to survive. But survival without meaning is not living," she replied. They moved through a ruined village. Emberkin children peeked from behind stone arches. One girl held a fruit in both hands and stared at Jace with wide yellow eyes. When he knelt down and smiled, she ran to him and placed it in his palm before dashing away. Sheree watched with a soft smile. "They've never seen a human that didn't carry a weapon." "I lost mine weeks ago," Jace said. "Good," she answered. "You don't need it here." They entered a stone temple with spiraling roots growing through the ceiling. It felt alive, pulsing with quiet energy. Sheree placed her palm on the wall and a symbol glowed beneath her hand. "This was built by the first bond makers," she said, "the ones who first touched outsiders." Jace ran his fingers across the carved shapes. "What happened to those outsiders?" "Some stayed, some left, one betrayed," she said. "After that, most humans were banned. Until now," he turned to her. "So why me?" She looked up at him. "Because you didn't flinch. You didn't take, you gave." A deep rumble shook the ground. Dust fell from the ceiling. Sheree spun toward the entrance, her eyes narrowing. "That's not nature," she said. "Something is coming." They rushed outside. The sky was darkening fast. Jace spotted metal shapes moving along the ridge, human drones, scout class, scanning the valley. Behind them, a military transport carrier descended, dropping a squad of armored soldiers. Jace swore under his breath. "It's Earth Command. They're sweeping for survivors." Sheree raised her hand to stop him. "They will not see a survivor. They will see a traitor. They'll shoot you on sight," Jace said. "And you?" "They'll try to take me back," he said, "and force me to fight again." She looked around. "We must run." But it was too late. The lead drone had already seen them. A red light locked onto their position. A siren howled through the trees as the soldiers spread out with rifles aimed forward. One of them spoke through a loudspeaker. "Unidentified male. You are in a restricted zone. Identify yourself and disarm, immediately." Jace raised both hands slowly. "Don't shoot." "My name is Jace Carter. I'm from Unit 9. I'm not a threat." The soldier stepped closer. "Then why are you with an alien female?" Sheree stepped in front of him. "He is under protection of the Emberkin. We are bonded." The soldiers didn't flinch. One raised his rifle. "That's not how this works." Another drone locked onto her chest. Jace moved quickly, stepping between the guns and Sheree. She saved me. I owe her my life." The commander waved his hand. "Take them both." Sharaya's eyes flashed as she reached for the blade at her side, but Jace grabbed her wrist. "Don't. If we fight, someone will die." "They would chain me," she whispered. "They would make you choose again." "Then we don't give them a choice," he said. "We run." He threw a flash device from his belt. The blast lit up the trees and sent the soldiers stumbling. Jace grabbed her hand and bolted into the woods. Gunfire cracked behind them, but the trees were thick and the roots high. They vanished into the wild shadows. Hours later, they stopped near a waterfall. Both were breathless. Sharay leaned against a stone and looked at him with wild eyes. "You fled your own kind from me?" "I didn't run from them," he said. "I ran to you." Her lips parted, and her hand reached for his chest. "Then why haven't you touched my soul, human?" Jace didn't speak. He just stepped closer and took her hand in his. This time she didn't tremble. She leaned into him, resting her forehead against his chest. No more words were needed between them, for now they were fugitives. But together, they were something more than either side could understand. The waterfall roared behind them, but Jace could only hear his own breath. He and Sharay had escaped. Earth Command soldiers, but not their intentions. They would be hunted now not just by humans, but by anyone who saw their bond as betrayal. Sharay stood barefoot on a moss-covered rock, her eyes scanning the trees. Her armor was scratched, her markings dimmer now. Still, she looked strong. She looked unbroken. "We cannot stay long," she said. "They will track heat, movement, even breath." Jace nodded. "Then where can we go?" She turned and pointed. "Across the deep ravine. There is a place my people abandoned during the last fire season. No roads, no signals. Just silence." "Sounds like the best option," he said. They began their climb down the rocky slope, careful not to leave any marks. Jace stumbled once, catching himself on a root, and Sharay reached back to steady him. Her grip was firm, like a soldier's, but her touch lingered longer than needed. She didn't speak about it, neither did he. But something passed between them that didn't need words. By nightfall, they reached a hollow under a cliff, shaded by thick vines and surrounded by bioluminescent plants. Sharay pressed her palm to the wall, and a hidden passage opened, a stone chamber carved centuries ago by Emberkin scouts. Inside it was quiet and dry. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the walls. Jace sat down, finally allowing his legs to rest. "This place feels sacred," he said. "It was once a haven for oathbreakers," she replied. "Now it is ours." She knelt and lit a small fire using the crystal shard and bone flint. The flame danced between them, casting shadows over her face. She took off her armor piece by piece, revealing the full pattern of her markings across her shoulders and back. Jace turned away politely, but she spoke up. "You may look, there is no shame in truth." He looked. The red lines weren't just patterns, they told a story. Wounds, victories, family, loyalty, loss. Her skin was a living history, each line painted by her own hand. "What do your marks say?" he asked. She leaned forward. "That I lived. That I chose. That I gave myself freely to a man who did not understand what it meant." "I understand now," he said. She reached out and touched his chest with 2 fingers. "Then you must carry marks too." He allowed her to dip her fingers in the red pigment she carried in a pouch. Slowly, gently, she drew a single line down his jaw, then went over his heart. "This is for survival. This is for courage." Her hand paused over his heart a moment longer. "And this is for bond." Jace took her wrist, steadying it. "Do your people believe in love?" She met his eyes. "We believe in shared fire. It may become love, or it may become ashes, but it always burns." Outside, distant thunder rolled. The soldiers were still searching. The war hadn't stopped. But in that hidden chamber, something else was growing stronger than fear. Suddenly, the crystal on Share's wrist blinked red. Her face darkened. They are scanning ancient ground. This place will not stay hidden long. How long do we have? Maybe hours, she said. Jay stood and began packing what little they had. Then we move at first light. She looked at him. You could run back to your kind. You still have a name among them. I am nothing now. He shook his head. You're everything to me now. I don't want to go anywhere you don't walk with me. Her lips parted, but this time no. Words came. She stepped forward and placed her forehead against his. The moment burned softly, quietly. No fire, no storm. Just the warmth of shared breath. Later that night, Jay stood guard while she rested. He held a blade now, not because he wanted to fight, but because she had trusted him enough to sleep. He watched the flames flicker across the cave walls. The red lines on his chest were still fresh, still wet. But they felt like they had always been there. In the deepest dark, his mind whispered a truth he had never spoken aloud. He wasn't afraid anymore. Not of the war, not of dying. Not even of being forgotten. Because he had found something worth burning for. At dawn, the sky over Veltrana glowed like burning glass. Shere awoke to the soft rustle of boots over moss. Jace was already moving, checking outside the cave. He hadn't slept much, but his eyes were sharp. Their patrols passed through the ridge last night, he said. They're close. Shere stood, adjusting her blade to her hip. Her markings had dried to a deeper red, like fire buried in stone. Then we run again, she said. No, Jace replied. We stop running. We find the Emberkin capital. Your people, the ones with real power. Shere narrowed her eyes. That place is not safe, not even for me. It's safer than wandering caves forever, Jace said. And if I'm going to protect you, I need help, allies. She stared at him for a moment, then nodded slowly. Then we walked the trail of ancestors. They moved east through the forest, careful to avoid roots that snapped like bone. Strange. Glowing plants lit their way. Once, a beast with 6 eyes growled in the dark, but Shere raised her hand and it backed away into the trees. They walked in silence for hours. Shere led the path now, moving with confidence. She belonged to the land, and the land responded to her steps like it remembered her. By midday, they reached a cliffside and stared across a deep canyon. In the far distance, on a hill of silver stone, stood a city carved from red rock and fire crystals. Towers spiraled into the clouds, each shaped like spears pointing toward the stars. That is a shocker, she said. The heart place. Jace couldn't believe his eyes. It's beautiful. It is old. And cruel, she replied. They crossed the canyon by a bridge that felt too thin for safety. Once on the other side, they were stopped by armored guards with masks shaped like flame wolves. Their weapons glowed blue with energy. Shere stepped forward and removed her shoulder plate, revealing her full markings. The guards looked at one another and lowered their spears. One of them stepped aside and motioned them through. Inside the city, everything pulsed with ancient energy. Emberkin children danced around fire fountains. Warriors trained in circles marked by glowing dust. Old ones carved symbols into stone with blades made of glass. Shere led Jace to a large hall where fire hung in the air like smoke. At the end of the hall stood a woman wrapped in dark robes, her hair white as frost and her eyes gold like molten sun. High Matron, Shere said with a bow. You return, the woman replied. With a human, I claimed him by bond. He accepted. The High Matron's gaze fell on Jace like a weight. Do you speak for her now? No, Jace said. I walk beside her. That answer brought silence. Then the matron nodded once. Then you are not a fool. That is rare among your kind. Shere stepped forward. We need guidance. Earth Command hunts us. And if they find this place, they will bring war. The matron turned to an ancient wall and touched one of the carvings. A shape glowed, a figure with two hands raised in peace, one marked by fire, the other by ash. "You walk the path of the twin flame," she said. "Only one other did this before, and he died in betrayal." Jay stepped forward. "I'm not here to betray anyone. I just want peace." The matron looked back at him. "Peace is not given. It is bled for." She raised her hand and 3 warriors stepped forward. Each one held a blade pointed down. "If you truly carry her bond, you must pass the ember trial. You must bleed, not for her, but beside her." Share's breath caught. "He is not ready." Jace didn't move. "What's the trial?" the matron replied coldly. "You must enter the arena, face whatever rises, and never break your stance beside her. If you do, your bond is ash." Jace looked at Share. She looked back with fear in her eyes, but not for herself. For him. He stepped forward. "I'll do it." The matron nodded once. "Then prepare. At sunset, you will step into the circle, and the truth of your bond will face fire." Share touched his arm. "You don't have to prove anything." "Yes," Jace said. "I do, not to them, to you." She looked at him for a long time, her voice soft as wind. "Then may the fire know your name." As the sun began to fall and the fire drums echoed through a shocker, the city turned its eyes toward the ancient arena. 2 figures stood at the center, one human, one emberkin. Neither would step back. The arena was shaped like a circle of stone. And fire. Around it, emberkin stood silent, their golden eyes locked on the pair in the center. Jace and Share stood side by side, blades drawn, backs straight under the setting sun. No one spoke. No one cheered. This was not a sport. This was judgment. A horn sounded. From the far end of the arena, a gate opened with a deep rumble. A creature stepped out 8 feet tall, with armored plates of ash and a burning core inside its chest. Its mouth had no lips, only jagged rows of crystal fangs. Share whispered, "It's a core beast. They use it to test Warburn. It cannot be reasoned with." Jace gripped his blade. "Then we don't reason, we stand." The beast roared and charged. Share dashed right. Jace rolled left. They struck together from both sides, but the creature's hide was like stone. Sparks flew. Jace barely dodged the tail swipe that tore a groove into the ground beside him. Share flipped over the creature's back and sliced behind its knee. It stumbled but didn't fall. Jace climbed onto its shoulder and drove his blade downward, sparks lighting the air. The beast screamed and threw him hard against the arena wall. His breath vanished. Pain screamed in his ribs. But he got up again. Share rushed to his side, shielding him with her body as the beast charged once more. Together they moved, flowing like a single flame. She blocked high. He struck low. The crowd remained silent, watching every motion, judging every step. Finally Jace saw the burning core pulse deep in the creature's chest. "The core," he gasped. "We have to hit the core." Share nodded. "I will open it. You strike." She ran straight at the beast, leaped, and drove both blades into its chest. The armor cracked. The glow flared. "Now!" she shouted. Jace ran, launched off the rubble, and stabbed his weapon deep into the exposed core. A burst of heat knocked them both down. The beast let out a final roar and collapsed, fire dying in its body. The arena was silent. Then the High Matron stepped forward and raised her hand. "The bond holds. The trial is past. Let all witness the unity of flame and flesh." The crowd struck their fists to their chests in respect, not just for Share, but for the human who had stood and bled beside her. Share helped Jace up. "You did not fall, even when struck down. I told you," he said. "I don't walk ahead or behind. I walk beside." That night, the city of Ashakar lit with fire banners. Feast was prepared not for victory, but for unity. Emberkin and human shared space for the first time in a generation. The High Matron called them before the Great Flame. You may leave now, or you may stay. Your bond is your own. But know this, your union changed the course of this world. Jace looked at Shorey. Do you want to stay? She smiled. Only if you stay with me. He didn't hesitate. Then we stay. The matron stepped aside. Shorey and Jace stepped forward and placed their joined hands into the sacred flame. It did not burn. It glowed white, pure, and calm. The fire accepted them both. Later, in quiet chambers beneath the temple, Shorey sat beside Jace, tracing the mark over his heart. The bond is no longer just law, she said. It is choice. He kissed her hand and smiled. You asked me once why I hadn't touched you. The truth is, I was afraid. And now? She whispered, I'm not afraid anymore. She leaned against him, her voice warm and soft. Then let the stars hear it. The human chose the flame. And the flame chose him. Outside, the fires of the city burned high. War still echoed in the distant skies, but peace had taken root in the heart of one bond. Not forged by power or law, but by choice, trust, and the courage to stand together. The gift had been offered, the bond had been tested. And in the end, it was not just accepted, it was cherished.